Hello, and welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors. Today is Friday, September 28th, 2012. And the first thing we're going to do is answer the audience questions, because you know that every week we present information about the crooks, quacks, and shysters in our neighborhood.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
So how do we protect ourselves against the crooks, quacks, and shysters in our neighborhood?
Yep.
So one of the people out there in the viewing audience called and asked us, what do we do about the crooked doctors?
Right.
Now this is important. One of the things that I did was that I filed this complaint in federal court.
Look at this, people.
And this is with Judge Gleason in federal court, and he knows, and so does the city attorney in New York, that the doctors at Rikers Island have committed Medicaid fraud and are stealing your tax dollars. Yep. And so what we're going to do is somebody called last week and they said, what about the quacks in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
So we're going to show you how to fill out the complaint form. Now, one of the quacks in your neighborhood is a guy named Dr. Raul Kaligdin.
Yep.
Dr. Raul Kaligdin, I think, but I have to double check, is a dishonest, crooked doctor at Harlem Hospital. Okay, this is my neighborhood in Manhattan, Harlem Hospital, Raul Kaligdin. So I'm going to change the camera view, and what I'm going to show the viewing audience is this is where you go to make the complaint, how you make the complaint, and then how to protect yourself against them throwing your complaint away, okay? Because when the local boys lie, it's a job for the FBI.
The FBI.
There you go. All right, so let's change the camera view.
Okay.
And, whoops, here we go. Here's the camera view, right here. And this is Exhibit Q. And what this shows, and I've already filed this in court. I want to get the overall gestalt first.
Sure.
Is the reason why I do Exhibit Q is because I'm trying not to waste paper here, and also tabs are very expensive. Okay. But what you're going to notice here, Bill, is that, and this can be cross-checked with my taped telephone conversations from Rikers Island.
Right.
This is the letter that was sent to me when I was illegally incarcerated. See, this is Lidya Radin. 1919 Hazen is the street number, East Elmhurst, New York. This is where I was illegally incarcerated. And this is the date on this letter, November 5th, 2010. And this can all be cross-checked through monitored and tape-recorded conversations from Rikers Island. And this is if you're in Manhattan, and you've got a crooked doctor who's doing anything wrong, and I'll show you some of the laws that protect you. What you do is you contact these people. This is the New York. Do you want to read that, Bill?
Yeah. Well, I can't. All right. That's
New York.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I can't.
This is the New York State Office of Mental Health.
Right.
So this is where you're crooked. This is where you complain about the crooked psychiatrist.
Right.
And they have a New York field office at 330 Fifth Avenue.
Okay.
9th floor, New York, 10001 /3101. And what you do is you call this number, 212-330-1650,
Right.
and you ask for the complaint form.
Right.
Okay, so when I was, we got two people on hold, and I'm going to talk to them right now.
Sure.
On our call-in show, we've got two people who are on hold. It's my mother, Ozana Radin, and her friend, Robert Cross. Can you say hello?
Say hello.
Hello? Hello? What happened to them? Uh-oh. Would we drop the call accidentally? Hello?
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, hello.
Say hello, Ma.
Hello, how are you?
Speak up a little bit.
How are you?
Okay. Tell the audience your name.
Ozana Radin, Lydia's mom.
Okay, that's my mom.
Hi, Lydia's mom.
I did.
Okay.
And Robert Cross, are you there?
I'm right here, Lydia.
Okay, good. Now, what I just showed the audience was a complaint that I made when I was illegally incarcerated. Now, this letter that was sent to me was sent in November 5th, 2010, when I was illegally incarcerated in Rikers Island.
Right.
Do you remember that I was calling you from Rikers Island, Mom?
Yes.
Okay. And all those conversations were monitored and tape recorded.
Yep.
Yes.
So my attorneys would like to pretend that that's not true, but it is true.
It is.
So that my monitored and tape-recorded conversations from Rikers Island can be cross-referenced to this letter that I got from the New York City field office, the New York State Department of Mental Health.
Okay.
And I made a complaint
Yes, you did.
that said these dishonest doctors at Rikers Island Mental Health Department were treating me as a patient when I was not their patient. Do you remember this, Mom?
Yes.
And one of those dishonest, crooked doctors is named Raul Kaligdin.
Yeah.
And on information and belief, I think he works at Harlem Hospital. So, Mom, we're doing a public service now for all the men and women in Manhattan to warn them against this crooked doctor.
Yeah, we're exposing this guy, people.
So, Mom, do you remember that I was calling you and telling you to call Bob Arkow and the other dishonest, crooked doctors? Bob Arkow is a social worker who runs the mental health department at Rikers Island. Do you remember that, Mom?
Yes, I remember that.
And you called him, do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
And he told you there was nothing he could do about intentionally falsified medical records. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Ah, say yes again.
Yes.
Okay, you heard the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is, we got a call last week from the audience, and they wanted to know, well, if they have a crooked doctor, what should they do?
Right.
So if you call this, I'm going to switch the camera view.
Okay.
And you're going to see this document right here. And these are now this document right now is a piece of evidence. It's marked Exhibit Q, and it's with federal judge right now. And you can see that it was from November of 2010. So these doctors had a retaliatory motive because I complained to their licensing boards.
Of course.
And I'm going to read the letter, and then and you guys have the viewing audience has the name and the address here. What you do is you call this number, and they will refer you to where you make complaints about dishonest doctors, particularly dishonest psychiatrists. So 212-330-1650. Now, I'm going to read the letter to you, and everybody has an interest in making sure that these crooked doctors don't lie.
Right.
Police officers, law enforcement, military personnel could have their lives destroyed by a doctor who lies. This happens all the time in the police department. In fact, the woman who was an attorney who was fighting this taught me a lot of this information. Let me read the letter. And also, judges, I got to say this quick. Judges, like the federal judge who has this evidence now, they're not against me because crooked psychiatrists, crooked doctors, like Raul Kaligdin at Harlem Hospital, what they try to do is they know that they're supposed to have a consent form.
All right.
They're supposed to fill out a consent form in order to treat you as a patient.
I see.
And these are all power and control issues.
Okay.
So frequently what crooked doctors will like to do, crooked psychiatrists, they'll try to get around this consent form by saying that they have the right, they don't, to diagnose you based on your public statements. Okay, they don't because they don't know what's going on in your life.
That's right.
So if you're a judge on the bench, they could diagnose you based on your public statements and your public demeanor.
That's right.
And they could characterize you as a Looney Tune if they wanted to.
Of course.
And they tried that with you.
Absolutely.
In Bill's case, they were trying to say Bill was acting out. There was something wrong with him.
You're talking about the court case.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. In the future, we'll have a lot to say about that. But go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole
number on that.
number
Okay.
about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, it was obvious that some the words acting out, you had gibberish. Obviously, some psychiatrists presumed to treat you as his patient. They can't.
Yep.
So I'm going to read this. So if you're a police officer, a military officer, you're a U.S. Marshal, you're an FBI guy, your life could be ruined if a crooked doctor, a dishonest psychiatrist claims that you're not fit to carry a gun, that you can't make judgment calls. They could completely defame you, take away your pension.
And that's your job, sure.
Yeah. So, and this happens in fact, this just happened with the honest cop who was reporting how the police department here in New York
Yes.
was manipulating crime statistics.
Right.
And what they did to discredit him is they drop kicked him into a locked psychiatric ward
Yeah.
for 6 days to try to say he was crazy.
Of course.
Okay, he's not. So, military men and women can have their careers destroyed
Yes,
based
they can.
on the Crooked Doctor.
Sure.
I had this experience with Judge Rodriguez
Yeah.
in Jersey City. This is a dishonest judge who refused to enforce no contact order.
Right.
And when she couldn't make a criminal case against me, what she did was she used the hospital as if it were a weapon.
Okay.
And she lied because she was covering up for the fact that she refused to enforce a no contact order.
Right.
Do you remember Judge Rodriguez refused to enforce a no contact order, Mom?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And that was in early August of 2008. Is that correct, Bob? Bob?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
You remember that I went down to the courthouse in early August 2008, like 4, 5, 6 times? Because Judge Rodriguez had said each and every time my landlords violated...
Yeah, I went with you sometime.
You went with me.
That's
And
right.
yeah, I went with you, and Bob went with you too.
And they consistently refused to enforce that no contact order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
See? So what happens is, Judge Gleason right now, who's hearing my case, he's not against me because he knows that this is all about power and control issues and Soviet psychiatry, dishonest, crooked doctors who use psychiatry as if it were a weapon. Shame on you, Dr. Blau.
All right. Show trials, if you will. The
Dr.
old Soviet show trials.
Exactly. And Dr. Blau, who's my professor, should be turning in his dishonest colleagues. We'll get to
Sure.
Dr. Blau later. I'm reporting you, Dr. Blau. You know what? Dr. Blau was my professor in medical school,
Yeah.
and he wanted the best for me. But unfortunately, Dr. Blau can't. It does not strong enough to turn in his dishonest colleagues.
Okay.
Shame on you, Dr. Blau.
Shame on you, Dr. Blau.
Dr. Blau should learn to say no.
Yep.
Because you know what Dr. Blau's problem is? He's trapped in an early developmental stage, and he has not learned yet how to challenge authority. But don't worry, Dr. Blau, we have a whole treatment plan in mind for you. Dr. Blau has not made it out of the
We
terrible.
got you covered, Dr. Blau.
Don't worry, Dr. Blau. I've organized up all the 2-year-olds. We're going to put them in a room, and you can practice saying no.
All right.
Oh boy, is he mad.
Let's move on now.
Okay, let me go back to this so that we can. I'm going to read this letter. Okay, so it says, "Dear Miss Radin, I am writing in response to the telephone messages you left detailing complaints about several different psychiatrists. Complaints regarding treatment by licensed professionals fall under the purview of the Office of the Professions of the New York State Education Department. Enclosed, please find several copies of the discipline complaint form for the Office of the Professions.
Right.
Please follow the instructions which accompany the form,
Right.
and you may also direct inquiries to the numbers listed on the instruction sheet. And you can call this woman right here. This is Janice Jones over at the New York City field office. Now, we're not sure if she's still there, but if you want to call this number right here, 212-330-1650.
You want to repeat that for them?
Sure. It's 212-330-1650. And this is the New York City field office, New York State Office of Mental Health, and you can complain about the dishonest psychiatrists. And if you've got other dishonest doctors, they will tell you how to fill out the complaint form. Now, you may have to make reference to these laws. So what you do is you go to the public library, and you're going to ask, in the public library, there'll be a set of black books. They're called McKinney's. Now, McKinney's is the publisher.
Yeah.
So the New York City attorney who I talked to tried to, she tried to pretend that I didn't know what I was talking about, saying, this is McKinney.
Standard.
Right. And by the way, Mom, are you still there?
Yes, I'm.
I spoke to an attorney with the New York City Law Department.
Yes.
And she's fully aware that I've been defamed and that these doctors have have violated this law.
Sure.
So I'm going to take the audio tapes of those conversations, put them on DVDs, and turn them over. Because when the local boys lie. It's a
It's a
job.
job for the FBI.
There you go. So we're gonna
I love it.
We're going to post everything up on the internet so that the U.S. prosecutor in D.C.
Sure,
can look at it.
sure.
We'll get to him later. So this is McKinney's Education Law, Section 6530. If you're out there, you go to any public library, you ask for McKinney's. It's a set of black books, and it's very simple. McKinney's is not a law, by the way. McKinney's is the name of the publisher
Yeah.
that publishes these New York State laws.
Right.
And this is right up here. Whether you've got a doctor, psychiatrist.
Yeah.
This is the definitions of professional misconduct that are applicable to physicians, physician's assistants, and specialists.
Right.
And right here, this is Education Law, Section 6530,
Right.
and you're going to cite to this. Now, with me, they used me as if I was their patient. I'm not.
You're not.
So what they did is they practiced the profession beyond its authorized scope.
Right.
Okay, because, and this is what Jimmy David does. This is the dishonest doctor who stalks me from my medical school.
Yeah.
He's a psychiatrist, and what he does is he pretends I'm his patient. I'm not. Okay, so without my explicit authorization, we're going to read item number 26.
Yeah.
They're performing professional services which have not been duly authorized by the patient.
Over and above, yes.
So right here, if you're going to complain about these doctors,
Jurisdiction, we're talking about jurisdiction. Yeah.
well, no, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about how to make a complaint.
I see. Oh, yeah, fill them in on that.
And one of the things that you have to know is you read through these laws and you see, if they're practicing the profession with gross negligence on a particular occasion, which I can show,
Right.
if they're practicing the profession with incompetence on more than one occasion,
Sure.
if they're practicing the profession while impaired by alcohol, drugs, physical disability, or mental disability,
Right.
like they deny reality to such an extreme degree that they demonstrate they're psychotic, not me.
Sure.
This is why they came after me so hard, because if you're a doctor and you're being convicted of an act that constitutes a crime in New York state law or federal law, this would be federal law for my federal student loans,
Yeah.
then you would be subjected to professional discipline.
Sure.
And you are supposed to know the local laws that govern the
Well,
rule.
ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so right here, where it says a willful or grossly negligent failure to comply with substantial provisions of federal, state, or local laws,
Yeah.
rules, or regulations governing the practice of medicine.
Sure.
So what that means is that when you treat me like a patient
That's right.
without my explicit consent,
Right.
you're demonstrating that you don't know the laws that govern the practice of medicine.
Exactly, but you're still liable, you see.
Yes, you are. So when you pretend that you don't know, like when I talked to Mom,
Yeah.
Yes.
are you still there?
Yeah.
When I talked to the attorney representing the doctors that I'm suing right now at Rikers and Elmhurst Hospital,
Sure.
she said to me, they don't know what they're doing wrong. So I called her up and I said, yes, they do, and these are the laws that they're violating. I'm not their patient.
But
They're
you see, all that won't fly in a court. I'm talking about legitimate court. All that
Well, you
fraudulent
still-
behavior, it won't fly before
Well,
very
you still-
often.
well, you still have faith in the court system. I don't.
I'm saying a legitimate court, of course. We know otherwise.
Right.
There are other courts.
Well, we already know we have four
sure.
crooked judges.
Four phony judges.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
that would be Robert P. Patterson Jr., Boise, man.
Wow.
Okay, so here, Mom, what I'm showing now is, let me change the camera view. Okay, so I am not their patient. I'm not
No.
Jimmy David's patient.
No.
What James David did is he ran around, and I discussed this with the marshals too. He runs around and pretends that he's a doctor who presumes to diagnose me. He has a retaliatory motive.
Sure he does.
He's had a retaliatory motive ever since. Remember, Mom, when they threw me out of medical school?
Yes, I remember.
And I refused to sign a contract?
Right.
Yeah.
Releasing the crooked doctors at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine?
Yeah, I
Sign the
remember.
release, right.
Yeah, no way. So this is right here. They are supposed, item 26, performing professional services which have not been duly authorized by the patient.
Right.
So that means when Jimmy David runs around and gives his professional opinion of me, his professional opinion ain't worth poppycock.
It ain't worth a dime.
Okay, I am not his patient. And he has no idea. And in addition to that, Mom,
Yes.
do you remember when we went up to visit Cheryl Fisher?
Upstate.
Pardon me?
Albany.
Albany,
Yeah,
correct.
Bob drove.
And Bob drove. Bob, do you remember that trip?
I sure do.
Okay, I'm holding in my hands the amount of evidence we gave to Cheryl Fisher, and I made her mail it back to me so I could confirm that the documents that I gave her were the documents she was viewing. And in here, Jimmy David, this was in 2006, right?
Right.
Yes.
And we didn't go up there alone. We went with 2 other student victims, didn't we?
Yes.
And Allen Roskoff came with us, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's Allen Roskoff, who's a gay activist.
Oh, wow.
We were in the streets fighting with them, weren't we, Mom?
Yes.
So, do you remember that, Bob?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, so Allen Roskoff came. Thank you, Allen Roskoff. Allen Roskoff came with us, and we talked to Cheryl Fisher. We had a sit-down, face-to-face meeting with Cheryl Fisher. Is that
Yes.
correct?
In her office.
Well, yeah,
Like living room, whatever it was.
or whatever conference room they had, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
conference.
she had someone with her. Is that correct, Mom?
Yeah.
There was another person there, like her assistant, right?
Yeah.
Bob, do you remember this?
Yes, I do, Lydia.
Okay, so Jimmy David lied. This is James David. He lied to the State Guarantee Agency. He lied to Cheryl Fisher. And there was a meeting between the Higher Education Services Corporation and officials like Jimmy David from my medical school. Jimmy David was Dean of Students. He lied and in 2006.
Yeah.
So in 2009 and 2010, when he's pressing false criminal charges against me, he had a retaliatory motive.
Sure did.
Okay? The dishonest doctor, we caught lying.
Put him on.
Okay.
Caught him with his pants down.
Yes,
Okay.
we did. And at Einstein, you have no idea how true that is.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, it's a shame because Marlene. Do you remember Marlene came with us, Mom?
Yes, Marlene. As a matter of fact, she was in our car. We
Yes.
drove her.
That's right. And it's a real shame because she was kicked out of medical school for cheating, remember?
Yes.
And you know something? Nobody cared. I was her primary witness because nobody cared about cheating. Robin Patton cheated in anatomy lab,
Yeah.
and the school gave her a medical degree.
Of course.
So the standards at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine are so low that if you're Robin Patton and you cheat in anatomy lab,
Sure.
they gave her a medical degree anyway. So there's no reason to kick.
Well, the reason is because she must be a team player. So they gave her the medical degree and everything else. Is that what happened? Okay, team player, people.
Exactly. Robin Patton is a team player in corruption.
Yes, she is.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Remember when Marlene was telling us about how Todd Olson was asking her to perform oral sex on him?
Yes,
Oh,
I do.
Do you remember that, Mom?
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me at all
Yeah.
if Robin, it wouldn't surprise me at all, but our professors created an openly hostile environment that
Yes.
violated the rights of women. And in my case, I could not get medical care at the little clinic that we had without accepting a violation of my right to privacy with my physician. And I discussed this with the doctors at Long Island Jewish Medical Center. Do you mean to tell me that I, as an adult woman in medical school, cannot go down and get an AIDS test or a pregnancy test without Todd Olson knowing about it? Who the hell is Todd Olson? He's some PhD in anatomy.
Right, who's this guy?
Who the heck does he think he is? So, in any case, Mom, when they accused Marlene of cheating, do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
The problem with this, in the case law,
Right.
once a school can set the standards for graduation
Yeah.
as low or as high as it wants.
Yeah.
But once it set that standard, it's stuck with that standard. So in my case, I was there in 1994 to 1998. Robin Patton cheated in anatomy lab. I did not see Janice Bennett as a therapist. I was like, how do I get away from these people?
Right, right.
The proof of that is that the school made us, Janice Bennett and the school tried to force us into signing contracts. Robin Patton signed this contract, agreeing to do her work honestly.
Right.
Kevin Riley signed a contract. I found that thing so insulting I refused. I'm not going to sign contracts promising to do my work honestly.
Of course not.
That's ridiculous.
Right.
It was insulting. They claim that this forced psychiatric treatment was so that for my benefit, so I could learn how to.
Oh, give me a break. Is that what they said?
Unbelievable. I could learn how to work in a team with who? The cheaters? Those are skills I don't want to know how to work in a team with cheaters.
A team of crooks.
Yeah. Robin Patton can develop that. But here's the thing for Marlene, and I told her and her attorney, that because Robin Patton cheated in an anatomy lab and there were contracts to prove it, the school doesn't care.
No.
Because they gave Robin Patton a medical degree.
Oh, yes, it did.
And the school doesn't care if you're psychotic or
Well,
not.
that was Robin Patton's reward, as far as I can see. She got a reward for being a team player.
You're a very bright man. Thanks, Bill. I didn't tell you to say that, did I?
No, I didn't come out of the top of my head, people.
Okay, so the sad part for Marlene is that the school didn't care about cheating. They gave Robin Patton a medical degree,
they did.
even though she cheated.
Right.
So there wasn't a reason to expel Marlene from medical school.
Right.
And it's a shame that the person who could provide information and evidence is the person that Marlene stabbed in the back, which was me.
Yeah.
By the way, do you remember driving Marlene up there, Mom?
Yes.
And we bought food to feed her too, didn't we?
Yeah, we took up lunch.
And Mike Tyberg was with us also.
With us in the car, yes.
Okay, so it was me, Marlene Abramova, Mike Tyberg,
And Bob who drove.
Bob, me, and Javon Patiar came with Allen Roskoff.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they came in.
And it was the job of the Higher Education Services Corporation to make sure that what happened to us should never happen.
Happen
And
again,
Cheryl
sure.
Fisher did not do her job. She helped the crooked doctors
Right.
and the crooked medical school in our neighborhood hurt people.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yes, it is.
That's bad.
So getting back to what you can do with your crooked doctors, these are the laws that you're going to use. And at Rikers Island, what they did is they wasted, in fraud, waste, and abuse, they claimed that inmates were their patients when they were not. And thanks to me and my complaints, the inmates came back from the mental health department and they said, from now on, Lydia, we have to sign to confirm that we've received these services. So, of course, the crooked doctors at Rikers Island were running a scam, and what they would do is create false medical records and bill for it.
That's
and
right.
I am not their patient. They had a retaliatory motive.
Of course.
And if you look at, these are the laws that you're going to cite, practicing or offering to practice beyond the scope permitted by law.
Yeah.
And these are all the laws that I will be citing too.
Yep.
In addition to conduct in the practice of medicine, which evidences moral unfitness to practice medicine.
That's right.
So Jimmy David and his colleagues at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine are morally unfit for the practice
Certainly are.
of medicine, which I've
Certainly are.
amply demonstrated. Okay, so if you've got crooked doctors, I gave you a phone number.
Shysters?
Yep, quacks, crooks.
Quacks, crooks, and shysters.
Yep.
I love it.
Now, if you have a dishonest lawyer,
Sure.
now Benjamin Garfunkel, and
Garfunkel is is a shyster. He's the classic example.
okay, so in Bill's case, he's got a dishonest lawyer named Benjamin Garfunkel.
Yeah, works for the landlord.
And the problem with Benjamin Garfunkel is when we were in court,
Sure.
he presented his witness. This is the landlord's witness, which
Yeah.
was a police detective.
Well, a cop, nonetheless. Yeah.
A police detective. The landlord wants to evict Bill, alleging that Bill was engaged in,
Letting people in and out of the building.
and also for disorderly conduct.
Disorderly conduct would be the charge. Sure.
And the landlord's own witness got up there and said, there was no disorderly conduct.
Yeah, the cop said there was no, when he asked by Vincent Setti, the cop says, Tom Jones, he says, there was no disorderly conduct. Well, that shoots the landlord's case right there.
But the bottom line is, if you're the landlord's attorney, Benjamin Garfunkel, and you're presenting your witness,
That's right.
which says there's no disorderly conduct, and you're trying to get rid of a tenant for disorderly conduct,
Yeah.
then this whole, why are they subjecting you to the intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Exactly, and
With this whole-
Matt Shapiro had made the same case. I was talking with him recently. We got irons in the fire. Let's put it that way. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if Bill's got a dishonest attorney, and Mom, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay,
No, I don't have the dishonest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Vince Ansetti is a straight arrow. The dishonest attorney is the landlord's attorney, Ben Carfunkel.
Thank you for correcting me.
Sure.
So if you're in Jersey City and you need a good attorney, you should go to Vince Ansetti.
Vince Ansetti, Esquire, right?
Yeah, we're gonna
give him more press in the future.
Okay, so Mom,
Yeah.
one of the things that happens is Bill is going to go to the Committee on Character and Fitness. So if you're out there in the viewing audience, what you want to take home from this
Well, this
show...
is in the state of New Jersey. She's been giving you information for the state of New York. So let's get that straight. We don't want
Right.
people in New York getting messed up with the New Jersey.
Well-
Two separate states and two different countries, if you will.
Well,
Go
you
ahead.
know what to do. If you've got a crooked doctor in New York or New Jersey, you call up your local office for the professions. You find out who the licensing board is. And you make-
licensing board for New York, licensing board for New Jersey, depends on where you are. Go ahead.
And the title of this show is Part 2, How to Protect Yourself.
Sure.
So I've shown you what to do in New York, and with the crooked doctors.
We'll show New Jersey people what to do. We'll get some addresses and stuff for them there.
Okay, so we'll do that as soon
In
as
the
we
future, sure.
as soon as we can.
We'll get organized.
And if you've got dishonest attorneys, now you've got the landlord's attorney, Benjamin Carfunkel.
Benjamin Carfunkel, the landlord's attorney.
So what you do is you call your local bar association
Yeah.
and you find out where the Committee on Character and Fitness is.
Okay.
Now in New York, if you've got a dishonest attorney in New York, the Committee for Character and Fitness in Manhattan is located at 41 Madison Avenue on the 26th floor.
Will you help me with that to find the committee in New Jersey so
Yeah.
we can publicize in the future?
Sure.
Go ahead. All right.
And for now, if you happen to be in New Jersey, you call the local bar association and you ask for the equivalent,
Well, we'll have the chapter and verse on that in the future.
So the bottom line is, if you got a dishonest attorney, you turn them into their licensing
Sure.
boards, because there's moral fitness for doctors. There's also moral fitness for lawyers.
Absolutely.
So, Mom, are you still there?
Yes.
Bob, are you still there?
Right here.
Okay. I'm incarcerated. I want to do a public service now.
Yes.
One of the dishonest lawyers in my case, and this is for everyone who lives in Queens, if there's an attorney named David Klegman. Now, David Klegman, it was my understanding, came to Rikers Island, where I thought I was going to interview him to see if I would hire him for my appeal.
Okay.
Now, David Klegman came. Mom, you still there?
Yes.
David Klegman, as I'm talking to him about how I've been illegally convicted and illegally incarcerated,
Okay.
early in my incarceration, Mom, were you willing to say and do anything that you had to say and do so that I would be released through bail pending appeal?
Absolutely. Anything.
Okay. David, if you had to put up large sums of cash or property, would you have done that?
Yeah, I told Klegman yes.
So David Klegman, wait till you hear this. I'm incarcerated in Rikers Island.
Got it.
I have spinal injuries. I was supposed to have surgery. Remember, Mom?
Yes.
I was supposed to have surgery for my 5 herniated
Yeah.
discs and my pinched nerve. Correct?
Yes.
So what they didn't want to have happen, Mom, were you very worried about me?
Absolutely.
Bob, are you still there?
I'm still here.
So Mom and Bob are very concerned, and Mom was willing to say and do anything she had to say and do to get me out for bail pending appeal so I could have my surgery.
Good.
So David Klegman, the dishonest attorney, comes to Rikers Island, and he tells me, are you listening, Mom?
Yes, I do.
He tells me that your mother will not put up the cash and the property necessary for you to get bail pending appeal. Is that true, Mom?
I told Klegman that I will put anything, money and property, whatever it takes to get you out. And that was such a lie what he told you.
So
Guy
when
lied. Klegman lied.
he lied, and he tried to play me and my mother off against each other.
Uh-huh.
So, Mom, When David Klegman came and said, your mother will not do and say whatever she needs to do and say so you can be released for bail pending appeal, he lied. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So I fired him.
Okay.
And then he ran around and told people that I was an anti-Semite because I fired him because he was Jewish. I didn't fire him because he was Jewish. I fired him because he lied to me.
He lied and he wasn't doing his job, folks.
And then he had the temerity to run up a great big bill so he could milk me and my family for money.
All right.
And what he needs to do now is show over 30 hours worth of legal work, which he did not do. So if you're in Queens, and I'm going to try to get a photograph of him, and you have to interact with someone named David Klegman, you should be aware that David Klegman lied to keep me in prison, lied to my mother, and then ran up a great big bill. He is a dishonest attorney, and I will be reporting him to his licensing board.
Well, that's the definition of a shyster. She just gave it to you, folks.
Are you still there, Mom?
Absolutely.
Are you still there, Bob?
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is true then. David Klegman lied to us. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah. I was saying anything, whatever it takes.
So you told David Klegman whatever it takes
Yeah.
to have
get
me
my daughter out.
to have me released with
And
bail.
then you tell me what he said to you.
He told me that your mother will not put up the money or the property next.
And I said that's not true.
That's not true.
No.
And then he told this big lie that I shouldn't be released for bail pending appeal because they were afraid that I was going to leave the country. Would that be true, Mom?
Oh, what a hard thing to say. Of course not.
No, I didn't want to leave the country. I want to stay and win this fight.
That's right.
Okay. So we've answered those questions. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I think shame on David,
Da-
Mr. Klegman.
Shame on Mr. Klegman. My mother wants her money refunded to her, Mr. Klegman. Oh, and wait, don't leave yet. They wanted to play this little game where they were going to pretend that I was a poor little sick girl
Oh, yeah.
and that Mommy was going to be the client and Mommy was going to make all the decisions. Was that true, Mom?
Absolutely.
That what? You were going to make all the decisions? Mom?
Yes. And I have a...
Ma, you have to listen to the question, okay? Who is the client, you or me?
You.
I'm the client.
Yes.
But David Klegman wanted to set things up so that you would be the client. Is that correct?
Correct.
And he wanted to set things up so that I would be perceived as the poor little sick girl.
Yes, correct.
And that Mommy had to make all the decisions to take care of the poor little sick girl, right?
Correct.
Okay. You have to listen to the question and then answer so that I'm not talking over you.
Okay.
Okay? So, who's the client here, you or me?
You are the client.
And you told that to Mr. Klegman.
Absolutely.
Okay. And one of the propaganda techniques that they were using was they wanted this to appear. They're trying to confuse the details of my case and the Marlene Abramova case.
Muddy the waters, yes, that's a tactic.
So, Mom, did you tell Mr. Klegman clearly that I was the client?
Yes, and Bob was witness. He heard me. I discussed with him. He can tell you.
Mom, you need to wait till I finish the question, okay? Did you tell Mr. Klegman that I was the client and that I would be the one signing the retainer agreement?
Yes.
And that you were not the client?
Yes.
Okay, and Bob witnessed this?
Yes.
Is that true, Bob?
That's true.
Okay. And the way they wanted to portray this with Mr. Lombardino, who's like in his 80s, was that, and this is how they tried to confuse the identities of me and Marlene Abramova.
Right.
Marlene Abramova would go everywhere with David Rimikoff. Ma, do you remember? I don't think you met David Rimikoff, but David Rimikoff was a man in his 80s.
Okay.
So what you see is this old man, young girl. With Mommy, who's going to take care of the poor little sick child.
Okay.
And so what they were trying to do was portray that to me, with me also, that here was Mr. Lombardino in his 80s, and here I was a younger woman, and I was going to be the poor little sick girl that Mommy was going to take care of,
Right.
so that the Russian Jewish community could confuse the identities of me and Marlene.
In other words, Lydia Radin is not in full possession of her wits, if you would.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do.
That was the game.
Right.
Okay.
And did you tell David Klegman, Mom, that I was the client and that I would be signing the retainer?
You make all this decision. It was nothing to do with me. I just wrote because you was incarcerated. I signed a check for you.
You were just doing things for
For me, what you told me to do.
Okay.
And Bob was witness.
And you're a witness to this, are you, Bob?
I'm a witness, yes, that's right.
Okay. So these are the propaganda techniques that they use. David Klegman is a dishonest attorney.
He's a shyster.
Do not hire. My recommendation: don't hire him.
Wait a minute. Now, Lydia's mom has just debunked every single item of this guy Klegman.
Yeah.
Yeah, of this shyster Klegman. She has put the lie to every item that you've heard it, folks.
Okay. So thank you so much. And Bill knows about this because you lived through your own nightmare.
Yes, we went through a similar. We'll have more of that in the future, but let's stick to Lydia's case here.
Now, there's something I wanted to say that will help both of us. Mom, I talked to some attorneys yesterday, and I was talking about how the transcripts were changed. Are you still listening?
Yes.
Okay. They say that it's very common that transcripts can be changed.
Altered.
Yeah. So when I was discussing with them, how do we protect ourselves, they confirmed also, when you go to court, make sure you bring big legal pads with you. Make sure you bring as many people with you as possible to take notes.
And independent cameras in a courtroom could help.
Yeah, and if you have to, then you say and do whatever you have to say and do to make sure you audio tape and videotape. And when they say that's illegal, it's garbage. You have the right to protect yourself against a corrupt, overtly corrupt court system.
Oh, well, let me tell you something. This same landlord had me in court before against Judge Sullivan. O'Sullivan was the judge years ago. And this landlord objected to the Jersey Journal being in the courtroom. What's the objection, Judge Sullivan said? My boss has given a letter of permission. So Carfunkel writer said, that's fine, Your Honor, that's fine, Your Honor. But, they tried a game, but it didn't work in my case. And it's not going to work in Lydia's case. Let me tell you right now.
So here's the thing. If you're out there and you've got crooked doctors, you turn them into their licensing boards. You got crooked lawyers, you turn them into their licensing boards. If you have to go to court, you know that the judge is corrupt, the lawyers are corrupt,
yes.
The police will lie. You bring people in with great big yellow legal pads to take notes.
Sure.
And if you have to, if they do to you what they did to me, you take all measures to protect your life against these folks. Because, Mom, at Rikers Island, I'm lucky to be alive right now.
I know.
Remember I was supposed to, before I went to Rikers Island, have surgery, and that didn't happen. So I've got 5 herniated discs and a pinched nerve. And right now, there's more stuff I got to tell you. But just to make sure that we got everything hammered down, because I want to start moving along.
Sure.
After we, well, I can't say that we fired David Klegman because technically we didn't even hire him, did we?
No.
You didn't hire him in the first place.
Let Mom talk. Mom, did we hire him?
No.
No, right?
No.
It's a Lydia decision.
And okay, so I was under the impression that he was coming to Rikers Island, so I could
represent you.
Well, no, I thought he was coming to Rikers Island because I wanted to interview him to see if I wanted him as my attorney, because the appeal was very important to me.
Absolutely.
So, there was a couple different attorneys I was talking to, and when I talked to him, I was trying to, this is another thing he did. I asked him to call the warden because they wouldn't let me into the law library.
Right.
And he did call the warden. And afterwards, I'm thinking, so you called the warden, to say, hey, please let my client use the law library, and you forgot to mention to the warden that, hey, my client is there illegally? A police detective lied to put her there? You do not want this guy as your attorney, trust me. Okay, Mom?
Yes.
Thanks so much. Bob, are you still there?
Still here.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to let you go now, all right?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Lydia's mom. We'll see you again.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So, what we want to do now, is, okay, you can go to all these local guys,
Sure.
But what happens when the local guys are corrupt? Well, then you can call Eric Train. Who's Eric Train? Eric Train is a prosecutor at the Department of Justice in Washington.
Okay.
And this is his phone number, 202-353-8622.
You want to repeat that, please?
202-353-8622. I called him on Wednesday of this week.
Sure.
Whoops.
Oh, a
sorry.
call.
No, that was, sorry, I forgot to turn off the phone.
Sure.
I called Mr. Eric Train on Wednesday. I got a response on Thursday.
Right.
So I gave this information to members of my group out in Jersey, to Joe Perry. Patricia Waiters was treated terribly in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
She tried to go, we have a right to petition our government. She tried to enter the building to the Department of Justice.
Denied access.
Privately paid security guards.
Yeah.
Stood out in the street and wouldn't I have videotape of all this.
Absolutely.
Then they lied to her and said there were no federal employees involved in her case. There are. I have videotape of her going to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Newark and talking to Constantine Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, she was supposed to be interviewed in a few days,
Yeah.
not months and years later. So Eric Train is a prosecutor at the Department of Justice in D.C.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this number out, and not only should he be weighing in, and remember, I went through all local offices. Oh, I forgot to tell Mom.
Wow. Well,
I forgot to tell Mom about Mr. Howard, because Mr. James Howard is a U.S. Marshal at 500 Pearl Street.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Mr. Howard, by the way, I have Mr. Howard's conversations on audio tape, and he admits that I was never a threat to a federal judge. He admits that the U.S. Marshals will correct their records, and Rikers Island and Elmhurst Hospital scammed the U.S. Marshals. We're going to do that next week.
Okay.
How Rikers Island and Elmhurst Hospital scammed the U.S. Marshals. I also have my attorney, Mr. DiChiera, on videotape admitting that my school obstructed justice, did not comply with a subpoena. I can make DVDs of all this stuff and give it to the federal judge.
She's got a number of DVDs, folks. A lot of this.
But if you're out there and when the local boys lie,
It's
a job.
It's a job for the FBI.
So what you do is you call Eric Train. The FBI is so upset they don't want to.
Sure.
The marshals are like, could you please take her case? And they're so upset because then they're going to have to deal with criminal corruption that's been going on for years. And involves Cheryl Fisher up in Albany. But what you do is you called Eric Train. Eric Train is a prosecutor at the Department of Justice in D.C. One of the big issues that Eric Train is going to have to deal with, because he deals with religious issues.
Sure.
So, Mr. Train, we're not against what Yeshiva University is doing. We're not against what Torah College Medical School is doing in New Jersey. These are big Orthodox Jewish schools that get lots of public money to promote private religious education.
Sure.
So who's against? Mr. Train, how much money do the Catholic schools get in Jersey?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So how come Torah College's medical school can run a religious medical school in New Jersey, and there doesn't seem to, do you see a great big wall of separation of church and state?
Yeah, the separation of church and state always comes up, as Lydia said, with Catholic schools. However, there's no such provision for, it seems, the Jewish schools. Why is that?
Yeah, Senator Schumer. Why is that? Are you against? I'm not against. I think what Yeshiva University is doing is fabulous. I can't wait till all the Catholic universities get the same good deal. And you know who I called? There happens to be an Islamic university in Minnesota.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think they should get the same good deal as Yeshiva University. So, Eric, if you're out there and you think that your private religious group should get the same good deal as Torah College and Yeshiva University, please call Eric Train at the Department of Justice and say, how come 1% of the American population gets a great deal and the rest of us are getting screwed, Mr. Train?
Well, that's certainly a lot of lobbying efforts on their behalf, these Jewish schools. I would say they probably have K Street lobbyists in Washington D.C. They must be very powerful.
It's not anti-Semitic to ask for the same good deal as the Orthodox. And in fact, the Establishment Clause of our Constitution says that we support all religious groups equitably and fairly, or we support none.
Basically, the Establishment Clause is we don't have a state religion like what we ran away from in Europe. However, evidently we are getting a state religion if this thing goes through with the Jewish schools.
So basically, for the last 40 or 50 years, Orthodox Jewish schools have gotten a great deal, and the rest of us are getting screwed.
That's the
So,
object. Yeah.
so if our government can't address this issue, and this is why they want me to shut up so bad, I'm like,
Sure.
can someone please explain to me, Senator Schumer? Because I went down and talked to Senator
Sure,
Schumer during the Sonia Sotomayor hearings.
Well, he should get on board because he's eminently a pretty fair guy, I always thought, and it would be interesting for him to get on this case.
So if the American government continues to oppress over 99% of the population, because we live like Palestinians here in the United States,
Sure.
we all pay taxes.
Yeah.
Our tax dollars go to promote private religious education for one group, but not for everybody.
Yeah.
Then
Discriminatory, isn't that discrimination?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that what we need to do is, and I talked to the Iranian ambassador about this. Technically, we don't have an ambassador to Iran.
That's right.
But she wanted to correct me, and she's like, Lydia, this is not all Jewish people. This is just the Zionists. And there are many Orthodox Jews worldwide who don't agree with what the Zionists are doing.
Well, that's a fact. That's true.
So they wanted to correct me, and if the American government continues to discriminate against 99% of the population, then we're going to need to ask for foreign intervention
Well, sure.
in America's affairs because we're an oppressed people.
Absolutely.
So basically what we've got is, in the state of New York, there has never been a fair hearing for medical students since the dawn of time.
True.
I contacted Ben Lawsky when he was Andrew Cuomo's state attorney general's office. I called him from Rikers Island, so he has no plausible deniability. And in Jersey, every lease for every tenant is illegal.
Yeah, it is, because what we say, boilerplate, basically only the landlord will get attorney's fees. There's no such provision for the tenants. So again, where's that at?
So in New York, we've got medical school students who are being denied their civil rights. There's never been a fair hearing for medical school students since the dawn of time in all schools in New York. In Jersey, every tenant has an illegal lease because it provides a protection for a landlord but not for a tenant.
Exactly.
And all of Americans are paying taxes to promote private religious education at private Orthodox Jewish schools, but the rest of us are getting screwed. So we've got these huge constituencies that are oppressed, and if Mr. Eric Train, who specializes in these religious issues, can't do anything about it, then I'm afraid we're just going to have to go to the international community.
I feel that Eric Train will do something about it, but he's got to get people calling in and writing in, folks, to let them know what the story is.
And I guess as we're... Personally, I don't think Eric Train is going to do anything, but you know something, call him.
Anyway, put him on the spot.
Yeah, what are you doing about it in D.C.? And one of the things that I wanted to show this too. Now, why was this such an issue is because, consistently you have discrimination against Christian groups.
Sure.
I started noticing that, it's in the domestic sphere, there's all this discrimination against Christian groups. And Mr. Weinstein, I got involved with Mr. Weinstein because Mr. Mikey Weinstein of Military Religious Freedom Foundation. I have friends in the military. Mr. Weinstein went to Yeshiva University. He asked them for money. They told him he wasn't Jewish enough.
Yeah. Well, the state of Israel, you're only a Jew, your mother's a Jew. So
no,
maybe
that's
I don't know. But I don't know what not Jewish enough means. I mean, that is certainly one instance, but go ahead.
Well, Mr. Weinstein was told he wasn't Jewish enough because he wasn't Orthodox enough.
Oh, Orthodox. Okay, I guess that's another.
And he was told that I remember talking to him about it, and he's like, Lydia, I want you to stop dancing around it. Just say it. These people are racists. They're bigots. They know it. They are unapologetic about it. I'm Jewish. I went to Yeshiva University. I asked them for money. They told me I wasn't Jewish enough, and my wife was not Jewish enough.
Okay, yeah, the Orthodox, the Reform, and another branch of Judaism. So this only applies to Orthodox Jews. I see what's going on here.
So what we're going to do is...
interfaith rivalry.
Probably. This is Mr. Mikey Weinstein. And this is so funny because he says in this article, he says that, or the author of this article says that Mikey Weinstein shares his hate mail with both friends and strangers the way elderly people show off photographs of their kids.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And for the last 4 years, Mr. Mikey Weinstein has been doing battle with his Military Religious Freedom Foundation. I like this quote because what he says here is that according to the Talmud, and silence is as if it was consent.
Uh-huh.
And so right here he says he's fighting this great big war of separation of church and state in the military, and I'm the counterpoint. What would you do without me? I'm like, Mr. Weinstein, what about separation of church and state out here in the civilian sphere? Can you show me the great big wall of separation of church and state at Yeshiva University?
Yeah.
He can't.
He can't.
Okay, so Mr. Weinstein, what would you do without me as a counterpoint, Mr.
Sure.
Weinstein? Can you show me the great big wall of separation of church and state? He can't. So how come you're building this great big wall of separation of church and state in the military, but out here in the civilian sphere, there's no great big wall of separation of church and state?
This is the big contradiction. I guess this is what Lydia is going. It's a contradiction in terms. Yes.
Yeah, there's no such thing as separation of church and state.
Well, sure. It's a manufactured. There's no separation of church and state in the Constitution. It's
Right.
a manufactured item.
Right. Our Constitution says, the Establishment Clause says that we treat all religious groups equitably and fairly, and that's not the situation we have in America right now. And that's why they want me to shut up. But when I talked to Mr. Weinstein, and one of the things, in his public speaking, he says that it's very hard on him and his family because he'll have these evangelistic Christians call him up and threaten his life. And what he can hear in the background are the adult men and women, egging these children on. And I'm like, that's exactly what Marlene Abramova did to me.
Okay.
Marlene Abramova engaged in actions that almost cost me my life, and standing in the background were racists who were egging her on. So, Mr. Weinstein, I understand exactly what you're going through, because that's what they're doing to me.
Well, Lydia knows where you're coming from, Mr. Weinstein.
And so one of the things that Mr. Weinstein says is that, and he's quoting the Talmud here, and he says, silence is consent. Okay, so we're not being silent.
That's right.
Mr. Weinstein doesn't like what we have to say, but that's just tough.
There's an old adage that evil progresses when good people remain silent or something like that, So you have to speak out against these ills. Lydia's doing a great job.
And Mr. Weinstein, I'm the one that called up the, I should get a nice picture of Mr. Weinstein here. I'm the one that called up the U.S. Air Force Academy.
Yes, you did.
And got the pre-med advisor at the U.S. Air Force Academy to make sure that those cadets would independently archive their letters of recommendation and their performance evaluations, so that never again would a medical school do to a young man or woman what the Albert Einstein College of Medicine did to me.
Exactly.
And we're out. So we're done.
That was good. We finished on a nice note. Just the timing just perfect. Great.
Oh, it's certainly a tour de force, isn't it?
Thank you.